All right. Welcome back into the Nat Bros podcast. We're going to continue our discussions on sovereignty, which now we're going to look at part one. We talked about the introduction last time. We're going to talk about part one this time, and then we're actually going to get into chapter one today. So I guess I haven't actually like looked at the what do you call it the table of contents. Is it like part one and then like multiple chapters in it, and then there's like a part two and like a
And there's
part three?
three
Three
parts. Yeah, I
parts.
think
Okay.
there's three parts.
All right.
And
So I guess it's basically
21
just
total
the intro,
chapters.
the intro to the part one section. So um, I think the biggest thing for me in this, so like the quote that I enjoyed during this was, too many men have taken a passive approach to their lives, and in turn, have created a life they're not at all proud of living. And so that that to me is like probably the biggest takeaway from this section is this idea that we've been passive in certain ways. Like, what do you think is the reason we've been passive? Do you feel you've
Well,
been passive?
we were raised that way. It's easier to be passive than to be aggressive. I mean, makes everything flow smoother. Not having to be aggressive. Not having to fight for what you want to fight for. Going with the flow. So of course that's easier.
Yeah, yeah.
It's comfortable. It's content.
You think we were taught that?
Do I think we were taught that? I think society as a whole taught us that was the way we were supposed to act. Uh, I think our parents, fitting in with society, wanted you to be submissive and passive and not challenge anything, even though nowadays I wouldn't say they're the same way, but whatever.
I, so you think our parents were kind of that way?
But yeah, I mean, I think they pushed that agenda like y'all need to be calm and quiet and not crazy and not rocking the boat.
Okay, okay. I guess I don't know. I would kind of say. I mean, it depends on how you're rocking the boat. Like I think that they taught us to be like respectful of authority. Even though now I would say that, like, that's changed to some extent, but like being respectful to authority, whether it be police officers, whether it be just anybody higher than us, and just being respectful to people. Like I feel like that has. I feel like it's interesting. It's really
Well,
fascinating. But
let's back up for 1 second.
all
I
right,
don't believe police officers are higher than us. You know, they're no different than we are. They have lives. They have rules, responsibilities. They're just there to enforce the law. Now the law is higher than us, so we obey and respect the law.
I mean, but I'm not saying they're higher than us in the sense of I'm not saying that they're higher like in the sense of okay they're better than us. I'm not saying that. That's not what I'm referring to. What I mean is having a respect for the uniform, having a respect for even the president, having a respect, regardless of whether we agree or disagree with him or her, if it happens to be that at one point in time. But having a respect for those offices, but then also just having a respect for people. Now, what I think is interesting is that I don't think that that's counterintuitive to being a man. Like I think that that's a very important part of it. I think because like even what Mittler talks about in the sense of like like where people will call you beta if you uh, if you're, and we'll get into that in chapter one, if you say that your anything you did is wrong, that you're beta. If you're not, if you're, kind of bowing down to authority or respecting everybody, then you're being beta versus an alpha male. And it's like, like even what he says, like that's not the case. It's just being in control of ourselves, right? And so, but this idea of being passive, I do think that I don't want to say it's society. I think society has given us some challenges in that regards. Even to an extent, like I would say this, like there have been like things that I thought about over the past year or 2 years where I feel like I'm being more passive and not because I don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. Like, and I feel like I would agree that maybe certain things that I've seen in social media, like whether it's cancel culture or whether it's political correctness or whatever it is, that those particular things made me want to be more passive. And I'm realizing that if we're just being passive about things, well, that I would say the cancel culture, the political correctness, but even the opposite end of it, where it's just you're yelling at people like on social media or you're calling them terrible names on social media, has also maybe like I don't want to be there either, right? Like so,
Okay, so let me rephrase it like this. Like, no, I'm not saying like you're out there seeking a confrontation or being aggressive without any reason. I think it's more or less you're passive, like you let things go that you shouldn't, and you should speak up for yourself. Like nobody likes being caught on their BS. And that's part of the things that got me in trouble with my last job. Was like, if someone was not doing what they need to be doing, I would call on it.
mhm.
You're messing up. No one likes to be told they're wrong.
I can go with that. I mean, I think most people don't like to be told that they're wrong or they're doing something bad. But even in that regards, like you still got to be very mindful of like I think there's an approach. I think there's a tactful way of doing that, and so I don't disagree with that. I agree that people do need to be told when they're messing up, when they're failing, when they're doing something wrong, but in a certain way. I think that's because I think it's like what's happening is we're getting more and more people pulling one way, like saying like, okay, we need to cancel these people, but then the opposite, like other people are going the opposite way in order to try and bring balance, but it's not being balanced is the thing. And so I don't know, it's kind of curious. But like another thing that he brings up in this first part, the introduction to it, is are those words anger, aggression, rage, violence, dominance, and strength. Like removing the need for battle, removing these particular qualities of being men. That is what's bad, and that is what's going on. And and for me, like I don't think those are the best words for it. Like anger, strength, cool, great. But aggression, rage, violence, dominance, like those four, I just don't feel like those are the right words to use because you don't want someone who's raging. You don't want someone who's violent. You don't want someone who's being dominant because the idea of dominance is I'm the master, you're the slave, do what I say, versus I'm the leader, but I'm going to do it in like a servant leadership kind of way.
I feel like you're missing the point.
Okay.
I can be dominant and not be acting like I'm a master. I can be aggressive or have aggression, controlled. Everything's under control, but if need be, it rises up to the occasion.
Right. Okay.
I feel like you've heard it before, or you've seen the meme before. It's like, a violent man, or what is it? I don't know. A good man's not a violent man, or something. I don't know. Something about violent man being under control. That's what it's like. There's no need for a violent man. So then, like, people are like, well, where's all the men that will fight for me or fight for my rights? No, it's easier just to run, tuck and run, and not have to fight for it.
But like again, like I because like when we see violence, when we picture violence, we're picturing like punching, fighting, those types of things. And I'm not saying that it's a bad idea to be to stand up against these things, to clash or to fight against or to struggle. I just think better words could be used. Like I think kind of still getting that same idea. So instead of aggression, why not driven, desirous, ambitious, right? Instead of being aggressive, you're driven. You're trying to get. And I know that like, the thing is like I think he may be using these words because these words kind of had that bad connotation to him, and he wants to say like they're not bad. But I'm like, it's still that idea that like you can be driven. And yeah, if you're driven, some people are going to call you aggressive. If you're ambitious, some people will say you're aggressive. But it's I don't know. I mean, maybe aggressive isn't the right one. Maybe aggression is a good idea, a good way of bringing that out. But like rage, why not just like talk about like passion? Why not talk about excitability? If you're doing violence, why not do like fierceness or like struggling or like clashing? You know, if you instead of dominance, why not be like influential? Why not be authoritative? Why not be demanding? Right? And so I just think there are better words. That's all.
Well, on that point, I think you're trying to once again take away from the man of it. You're trying to politically correctly say it, and that's what the book's saying. Like, we're so worried about hurting other people's feelings, we're sitting here trying to make a man not a man. No, men are violent. Men want to destroy stuff. Boys want to destroy stuff, right? Boys like adventure. They like danger. That dangerous, right?
Okay, then use dangerous. Like why not? Why not? What
This
like
I
that?
don't know.
The thing is
Danger.
like I'm not being politically correct in the sense of like these words that I'm using. Like no one says like being driven or ambitious is being politically correct. Being having fervor or being passionate, clashing, struggling, fierceness. Those are definitely not politically correct. Authoritative, not politically correct. Demanding, not politically correct. Right? I'm not saying these are politically. I'm not trying to be politically correct in these. These aren't politically correct. I'm just what I am saying is that like rage is this idea of like because like you can think like road rage or you can think like too much rage, right? Someone who goes into a rage like the Hulk. We kind of like see this like someone who just kind of like loses it. But if you're talking like controlled anger, like anger at things that like anger at injustices, anger at you know inequality. That's fine. Yeah, absolutely. Like things anger at when you need to protect yourself or those that are closest to you, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's all I'm saying. Not trying to be politically correct. Just saying that I think there are better words that still kind of get drive the point home. And I know because yeah, it's just choosing the right words. I think, but I mean, again, like that's that from the beginning. I was like, oh, I got a problem with this. But as I get further into chapter one, I'm like, oh, okay, like this seems good so far. Like I can't really disagree with what some of the ideas and thoughts that he's putting forward. So getting into chapter one, he starts out with Henry David Thoreau, the quote: "The mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation." That there's a struggle with like anxiety and depression and suicidal thoughts in men. There are three times as many suicides in men over women, and that there's this unwritten rule of men don't talk about weaknesses, they don't talk about struggles, they don't talk about shortcomings. I don't disagree with any of those. Like, what are your thoughts towards those first couple of things?
Hmm. Um, I would agree with like suicidal thoughts. I would agree with quiet desperation. Like, we're not equipped to deal with those kinds of things because we have to deal with them by ourselves. So they all lead into like, oh, hey, I get anxious and then I'm kind of depressed and then I'm not saying I'm thinking of it, but that's what it leads into because there's nobody there for you. You know, we're out here all alone. Um, yeah, I agree though. Mostly quiet desperation.
Okay. So what about this one? Like, it's been man's responsibility to have everything figured out.
Mm,
Because like I guess like the biggest thing that I've got an issue with in relationship to that is that
I don't think so much figured out. I
yeah,
think it's this, you have a solution or you have a plan of action. It's not. It's like men aren't geared to just listen. We're geared to listen to fix the problem, fix the issue. So, like, you know, a lot of the arguments you might have with your wife or girlfriend, whatever, is like, I just want you to listen. Well, no, because that's not me as a man. A man's supposed to fix it. A man wants to fix it.
well, so I'll agree with you there, but even then, like it is kind of that idea of like so that kind of it kind of feels like that does kind of fall into what he's talking about, where like we always have like the solution to the problem, whatever it is, whether it's the wife coming to us and saying, "Hey, I've, there's this going on at work," and we're like, "All right, let's fix it, let's get it done." But I think that that's just kind of like the way we're wired. But like even whenever my wife comes to me and says, "Hey, there's this thing going on at work," and I'll be like, "Hold on, real quick, before you start, let me ask you, do you want me to just listen, or do you want me to try and fix it? Because I'm just geared to try and fix it. But if you just want me to shut up and listen, I'll just shut up and listen." And so, but I think in this one, it's more of like the idea of being that like self-made man, or not being able to expose your weaknesses, not being able to talk to people about struggles or issues that you've got going on, and that we're just supposed to like we're not supposed to show emotion. We're supposed to just have it all, like we got it under control. And like I don't know, in my mind, I guess I could kind of see that like we never really got, there are certain issues that were like off topic with our dad, like it was like there are certain things.
I think you're reading into it too much. You know, if your wife has an issue that she needs solved, she comes to you and she's like, "Hey, I need this fixed. Can you help me?" You know, and that's the point. Like, you are the last resort for your wife to get it fixed because you're supposed to be able to fix it. Do you not feel that way?
I mean, yes, but I don't think that's where he's talking about. I think what he's
That,
talking about.
that's exactly what he's talking about. I mean, but it's more or less with the world too. I mean, the man is supposed to fix it. That's how the world's geared up. Woman needs help with something. You go to your husband, your boyfriend, whatever. He helps you fix it.
Okay.
He is the fixture.
But I don't know if that's the like I don't know if that's the responsibility of the man. Like I think the responsibility of the man is like to just be cool. Like if if the crap is hitting the fan, you keep your cool. You may not know what in the world's going on. You may be like, "Listen, I'm not sure, but I'm gonna figure it out." Like, not that I have it figured out, but that I'm just gonna keep cool. I'm not gonna lose my composure, and I'm just gonna all the chaos that's happening right now. I'm just gonna take that and set it to the side and be like, "All right, let's figure this out."
I agree to disagree. I understand what you're saying, but I think at the same time he's saying something entirely different. It has been man's responsibility to have everything figured out since the beginning of time. You go to the man for the solution. And you've seen that go away from that more so now because of all the politically correct and activists and rights movements and stuff like that. And I'm not saying like those are bad things, but what I'm saying is, you know, men have always been told, or men feel like they're the fixers, and then now nobody comes to you to be fixing stuff. Like everyone's independent. I've heard my wife say it plenty of times. I don't need a man. Well, okay, and that's that whole fundamental thing where it's like, well, if I'm not needed, then what do I do?
So you're saying, okay, so you're saying that if that's the case, like if the women are saying like men aren't necessary, then
Not just women. I mean, all society saying we don't need that kind of man. We're just now we're reproducers. That's all we are now. We're not even women can provide for themselves just as much as men can now. They work just as much as men can. So you took away all those things that a man's normally used to doing, or a man's done in our culture for years, and now it's you know like I said, what am I going to do now? I'm not the provider. I'm not the protector. What am I protecting you from?
mhm.
I'm not the fixer. You can fix it yourself. YouTube's perfect example of never needing to ask your husband for anything. That's what I think it is. It's talking about literally. It has been in the past our responsibility, and now it's not. Now everybody's moving away from that. And now they want you to be something you're not.
But I think what he's referring to is not so much figuring out life, like issues or challenges. I think it's more that it's an emotional thing. Like figure your own crap out. Whatever's going on mentally with you or emotionally with you, you figure it out. Don't talk to anybody else. There's no need. That's why he's got that unwritten rule of like don't show your weakness, don't talk about your weaknesses, don't talk about your struggles, don't talk about these shortcomings. But instead it's keep it inside, figure it out yourself. You don't need anybody else.
No, no, no.
That's
It's
what
not.
no. That's literally what the introduction is. And then he goes right into this isolation where the reality is we're alone. That that it's kind of like this idea
But
of the
no,
self made
no.
man.
But then he talks about how we need other men to connect with. That's the
Yeah,
whole
no,
story
no,
is
no, no. But
connecting
that's
with
but
other
that's
men.
what I'm saying is like the first part is this idea of being figured out is that you can handle your business on your own. You don't need anybody else.
No, the whole point is not to blame anybody else. It is your responsibility to fix yourself, not anybody else's fault.
That he gets into that later on, and that like I feel like he builds into that. Like I feel like this first part is like you're like yes, you have to take action to take care of to fix yourself, right? You can't blame it on other people. Yes, I'm not talking about blame. I'm talking about seeking help. I'm not
I'm
talking.
talking about. I've read only the first chapter, and he is literally talking about how men need other men. Men need other. They need a pack to survive. The world wants you to act like you can be a lone wolf, but you can't. You need help. It takes a tribe. It takes a village to raise kids. It takes a village to help men. Like it's not. We're not built to be alone.
Right, right, no, and I don't disagree with that. But what you're saying is you're saying that when he writes, it's been man's responsibility to have everything figured out. That is connected to having a pact. That's or a pact, not a pact, a pack. That those aren't connected. What he's saying is he's saying if man is supposed to have everything figured out, that's kind of like society or other people or your father telling you you should be able to do this by yourself. You don't need the pack. That's what he because he starts that out saying that, and then he goes into isolation, then he goes into different expectations, and then he talks about no, 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 no. You need other people. You've got to have.
I guess I was misunderstanding what you were saying. Like you didn't say it like that.
Sorry, that's what I mean. Yeah, yeah. Is where he's like in this first part, you feel like because of whatever reason, maybe just however you're raised, you feel like okay, I've got to do this on my own. I've got to figure this out. Like it's me versus the world. But what he's saying is like no, like you've got to go and get help from other men, that kind of thing. But I mean, but he also like he brings up like James Bond and Jason Bourne is like they're these men, they're self-made, they're strong, they're knowledgeable, they're charismatic, and alone. But that goes against I like a couple of things. Like I would say, number one, it definitely goes against kind of like just nature ourselves, like just how we feel. Like being alone just isn't conducive to the human condition. Like being off on your own is kind of a crappy thing, you know. And you definitely and it's always better to get with people who are a little bit more or like similar to you. So like a man being with other men, right? That kind of idea. But you know, the other thing too is like I don't know, like he is bringing up there is some interesting like biblical correlations to this. He doesn't bring up the Bible at all, but it's like if you're reading like Proverbs, like it talks about like it says as iron sharpens iron, so when one man sharpens another, it's like okay, I can't do this life by myself. Like no matter how much I would love to, or no matter how much society or my dad or my friends are telling me that I should, I know I can't. That kind of thing. Thoughts?
Honestly, it's done turned around so many times. I don't know what I'm thinking anymore.
All right. Well, I'll continue and see if something pops up. Um, so so he talks about how in the early part of like human development that there was a pack, the tribes, and that you needed this group in order to hope to survive. And not just that, but also like the group used your strengths, but then also helped to cover your weaknesses. And that's kind of like where you were at. And it was like the men's purpose to protect and to go and hunt and to go and struggle in order to survive. But now it's become easier to just kind of be calm, easy, and chilled and laid back. Right?
Be passive.
Yes. Yeah.
Right.
So it's kind of that idea. Um, so then like getting up here to kind of like his quote of the law of the jungle. Uh, like this is the law of the jungle, as old and as true as the sky. And the wolf that shall keep it may prosper, but the wolf that shall break it must die. As the creeper that girdles the tree trunk, the law runneth forward and back. For the strength of the pack is the wolf, and the strength of the wolf is the pack. And so this idea, this poem by Rudyard Kipling, um, kind of ties into that. Just this idea that you can't do this isolated. You can't do this by yourself.
Kind of makes you wonder, like where did the term lone wolf come from? You know, if a wolf is always in a pack.
Yeah, but see, but that's also interesting. Is like because like if you take a look at like if you I guess if you take a look at the maybe it's like this alpha wolf, right? Or like alpha dog, kind of like being the lone wolf. Maybe that's where it developed from. But like if you look at like even they'll even like make it a derogatory thing to be a lone wolf because like sometimes if you see like uh, um, a shooting or like a mass shooting, it's like oh he's a lone wolf. He's going off and doing his own thing, and it's like oh okay. So we even get like media saying hey being a lone wolf not a good thing. You shouldn't do that. But I also think that it's kind of we don't really have like an answer from media. We don't really get an answer from media. It's like, oh, this guy was a lone wolf. He just kind of did his own thing. It's like, okay, cool. So what's the answer to that? Like, what are we supposed to do? Like, and I think that that's what Mickler is tying into. It's just like, you gotta get other people.
Right, you need support. I agree.
Yeah. So, so yeah. Um,